On September 9, 2016, beneath the warm Californian twilight at Dignity Health Sports Park, a softly spoken 23-year-old from Zama strode through the tunnel in a black, executioner-style cloak that brushed the canvas as he climbed the steps. Naoya Inoue was already a household name at home, a two-division champion celebrated by millions. But this was his first chance to show an American crowd why Japanese fans whispered about him in tones reserved for folklore. Across the ring paced Antonio Nieves, a proud son of Cleveland wrapped in stars and stripes trunks, 17 wins glimmering on his resume, and a tongue that had wagged all summer about soft opposition, lighter weight classes, and overhyped Japanese fighters who never leave Tokyo. Nieves promised fireworks, insisting that the man nicknamed the Monster had never been properly tested. Inoue said almost nothing. His silence, taut as a drawn bow, only amplified the tension as the opening bell cracked through the night air. The champion spent the first round downloading data, sliding half steps left and right, and flicking a stiff jab that smacked leather onto Nieves' guard. Midway through the second, the studying ended. Inoue sank a right hand between the American's gloves, followed with a piston-sharp left hook that detonated under the ribs and froze his rival's grin in mid-taunt. The crowd gasped at the dull thud of fist on flesh. Every subsequent exchange sounded like a bat striking wet clay. By the fifth, Nieves' elbows were glued to his body, his right eye pulsing, and his corner screamed for lateral movement that never came. A pair of left hooks, one upstairs, one down, folded him to a knee. Though he beat the count, he returned to a corner that had seen enough. Before the seventh could start, the stools stayed put, towels fluttered, and the Monster's American debut ended in a merciful retirement. Inoue bowed politely, his expression unchanged, as a new nation learned the price of casual disrespect. 6 months later, the champion's quest for global recognition continued in Yokohama against French challenger Yoann Boyot. If Nieves had been mouthy, Boyot was manic, dancing, gesturing, and declaring that movement would undo Japan's most feared puncher. For 90 seconds, that footwork looked respectable. Then Inoue cut the ring, pinned the Frenchman near a neutral corner, and slung a hook so compact the replay required freeze frame to locate the moment of impact. Boyot collapsed as though struck by a bar stool. He rose, chin still tilted by pride, only to meet a blizzard of hooks and straights that whipped his head in brutal arcs. The referee's wave at 1:43 of the third consigned another brave soul to highlight real limbo, and Inoue's ledger swelled to 15-0 with 13 knockouts. The following summer, the World Boxing Super Series beckoned. Under spotlights in Moscow's opulent draft gala, world champions chose quarterfinal foes like generals picking battlegrounds. Inoue, now bearing the WBA bantamweight belt, selected respected former unified titleist Juan Carlos Payano. Some pundits blinked at that audacity. Payano was rugged, a southpaw W, and had never been stopped. But the Monster seemed almost amused by the suggestion of danger. 90 seconds into their Yokohama bout, he feinted a left, snapped a right, hand straight through the Dominican's guard, and followed instantly with a left hook so clean the crack echoed off the arena rafters. Payano's legs folded under him as though someone had severed invisible strings. The official count might as well have been a lullaby. One punch combination, 1 minute and 10 seconds, and the WBSS bracket shuddered. That obliteration earned Inoue a London semifinal against Puerto Rican IBF King Emmanuel Rodriguez. The buildup was tense. At an open workout, Rodriguez's trainer shoved Inoue's father, Shingo, the architect behind his son's precision. Cameras flashed, camp entourages bristled, yet Naoya merely crossed his arms, absorbing the insult the way iron absorbs heat, quietly, until it is red hot. Fight night in Glasgow began with Rodriguez on the front foot, spearing jabs and short rights in clever patterns. Inoue's reply was to breach space with a thudding left to the liver that stopped the champion mid-combination. A second body shot sent Rodriguez sprawling in disbelief. 2 more knockdowns followed in a ruthless sequence of hooks and overhands. By the time the referee waved the contest off late in round 2, Rodriguez's feared chin was no more than an abandoned shield. Inoue departed the ring with a second belt slung over his shoulder and a reputation now bordering on mythic. The final pitted the monster against a living legend, Nonito Donaire, 4-division champion and holder of one of boxing's deadliest left hooks. In the opening volley, Donaire carved a looping counter that split Inoue's orbital bone. Blood trickled, vision blurred, and for the first time the monster tasted his own mortality. Instead of wilting, he rallied behind a spearing, jab-winning pockets of the ring with footwork so economical it looked effortless. Round after round the men traded artillery, Donaire staggering under a straight right, Inoue blinking through crimson haze after a pulverizing counter. In the 11th, the Japanese star dipped, torqued, and buried a left hook square into Donaire's liver. The Filipino flash's knees unlocked. He turned, half-crouched, face contorted in agony. Somehow he beat the count and even jousted to the final bell, but the judges were unanimous. Inoue, battered yet unbowed, lifted the Ali Trophy, WBA Super, and IBF straps, cementing a place among pound-for-pound royalty. Even before his American debut, Inoue had cut a path of devastation across Asia. Back in 2014, he had crushed WBO junior bantamweight challenger Warlito Perenas in Tokyo. Perenas, all daring angles and swarming flurries, spent most of round 1 trying to swarm a hurricane. Inoue slammed a straight right through his guard, then doubled a left hook upstairs and down until Perenas sagged into the ropes, glassy-eyed. A short respite between rounds only prolonged suffering. Early in the second, a surgical 3-punch volley forced the referee to intercede as Perenas's head snapped sideways like a brittle branch. The mismatch lasted barely 5 minutes, but the lesson for future challengers was indelible. Start fast against the monster, and you might not finish at all. 2 months later, mandatory challenger David Carmona arrived in Sendai with dogged determination and a proven chin. 30 seconds into round 2, a thunderous right to the temple buckled the Mexican's knees. An awkward fall injured Inoue's own right hand, yet he maintained a punishing pace with his left, jabbing, hooking, even shifting southpaw for stretches. Carmona, bruised but valiant, absorbed combinations that would have splintered lesser men and survived to hear the final scorecards. He lost every round yet wore the decision like a badge. He had endured 12 brutal frames against the monster and lived to tell the tale. Inoue's third WBO defense pitted him against 33-year-old Thai veteran Pechbong-born Kokietjim, 42 victories, bullish stamina, and a granite forehead. Early exchanges saw the challenger lunge with looping rights, some grazing, others missing by whiskers. Inoue calmly slipped, punished the body, then disengaged, as if experimenting with cruel patience. By round 10, the experiment ended. A right hand counter landed flush and Kokiekim's legs betrayed him. Smelling blood, Inoue opened the throttle, unloading vicious hooks that ricocheted off skull and ribs until the referee seized the beaten man in an embrace of mercy. These triumphs only hard-polished an aura of invincibility. Yet each victory revealed nuances of the monster's artistry. Against Neves he demonstrated merciless precision, versus Boyo, explosive finishing. With Payano, perfect timing, confronting Rodriguez, cold-eyed vengeance, and an enduring Donaire, unbreakable resolve. Every fight stitched another panel into a fearsome tapestry, one woven from quiet rage, meticulous craft, and a cultural heritage steeped in Bushido. By 2020, the whisper in gyms from Osaka to Los Angeles was no longer, who can survive Naoya Inoue, but can any bantamweight on earth defeat him? Sparring partners recounted horror stories of body shots that robbed breath faster than drowning, of jabs arriving too quick for human reflex, and of footwork so subtle it seemed sorcery. Trainers studied tape, searching for tells in the milliseconds between feints and strikes, finding none. Commentators rummaged boxing annals for parallels, landing somewhere between Ricardo Lopez's technique and Manny Pacquiao's ferocity, an alchemy equal parts science and savagery. Yet for all the violence in his fists, Inoue carried himself with disarming humility. Post-fight interviews brimmed with bowed gratitude toward opponents, fans, and ancestral mentors. In dressing rooms, he thanked cornermen individually, folded towels, and swept stray tape from the floor. Family, he insisted, grounded him. Father Shingo, who molded his style. Younger brother Takuma, a rising contender. And wife and children, who saw only the soft-spoken man who helped with dishes after roadwork. Those close to him understood what outsiders sometimes missed. The monster existed only within the four ropes. Beyond them, Naoya was courteous, almost shy. That duality fascinated the wider sporting world. The savage elegance of a champion who entered like a wraith, dispatched rivals with chilling efficiency, then apologized for the inconvenience. It fueled magazine covers, think pieces, a swelling fan base spanning continents. Children in Mexican plazas practiced mid-range shuffles, chanting, "I know, A." Filmmakers pitched documentaries. Promoters salivated over unification bouts in football stadiums. Rumors blossomed about daring leaps to featherweight, where new dragons awaited. Through it all, Inoue kept his eyes on the old samurai maxim. Katsu kotonai, makeru kotonai. Neither seek victory nor fear defeat, simply fight with honor. His legacy, however, is etched most clearly in the expressions of those he vanquishes. Rewatch Antonio Nieves backpedaling, wide-eyed, glove glued to liver, as understanding dawns too late. Freeze the frame on Emmanuel. Rodriguez's face mid-collapse, a mixture of shock and resignation as internal systems shut down. Examine the respectful nod Donaire offered at the final bell, a veteran acknowledging a torch passed on merit, not marketing. These moments crystallize a truth numbers alone cannot. Naoya Inoue isn't merely accumulating wins. He is redefining the threshold of human punishment in the lower divisions, reminding a sometimes cynical sport that perfection, though fleeting, can be terrifyingly real. Whether future nights will see the monster stalk 122-pound prey or chase pound for pound, supremacists up still higher slopes is conjecture. What endures is the mythology birthed on one September evening in California, when a quiet Japanese champion answered disrespect not with press conference barbs, but with surgical violence that silenced a stadium. From that night onward, every challenger approached Inoue with heightened caution, aware that beyond the polite smiles and ceremonial bows waits a force as relentless as it is refined, a force forged in the disciplined furnaces of Ohashi Gym, tempered by ancestral pride, and unleashed upon any soul bold enough to question its legitimacy. In the annals of boxing, certain names glow like constellations because they fused brutality with beauty. Roberto Duran's fury, Sugar Ray Leonard's grace, and Juan Manuel Marquez's timing. Naoya Inoue belongs in that celestial company, a star whose light first flickered in Osaka hallways, blazed over the Pacific, and now illuminates arenas worldwide. He is testament to what happens when ferocious instinct is married to obsessive craftsmanship. Punches so crisp they appear pre-programmed, footwork etched in geometry, and composure carved from granite. The monster may smile softly at weigh-ins, sign autographs with gentle patience, and bow before and after combat. But once the opening bell tolls, the transformation is absolute. In that violent chrysalis, he becomes a lesson etched in bruises and broken ribs. Underestimate a samurai at your peril, for his true reply is written not in words but in the sudden silence that falls when an arena realizes a fight, or perhaps an era, has already ended.